And we're live.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded
I'll second.
by Hillary. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Okay, so we have a delegation today from Compass ELC, Timbernook. Are they joining us now, Cindy?
Yes, they're in the queue. I'll just promote Jenna right now. And I believe Jenna's with us. Jenna, are you there?
Yes.
Perfect. So as we discussed, Jenna, as you go through your presentation, if you can just ask me to move on to the next slide, then I'll move on to the next slide for you.
Perfect. Sorry. I'm from Compass ELC. I'm a registered early childhood educator, and I am the Timbernook Peterborough program lead. You can go to the next slide if you'd like. This is just kind of to preface the short, quick presentation that we like to say everyone can be successful in the woods. And really, that's what the last 2 years have kind of taught us, is how important the woods are to us. And we need to get children out there more than they already are. So next slide. So this is just a bit of background behind Timbernook. It was designed and established by an occupational therapist in the States. And there are now Timbernooks in, Australia, New Zealand, England, all over the United States. In Canada, we were the first in Ontario to have a Timbernook program, second in Canada. And now we have ones in BC and Saskatchewan as well joining us. We strive to be a living example of what outdoor play should look like. You can switch to the next slide. I guess I kind of already said this, but it's very developmentally based. It looks at the whole child and all their needs, and really the importance of getting out into that therapeutic setting of the outdoors. Next slide. So we here at Timbernook and at Compass ELC, we truly believe that for children to have a relationship or to become protectors and champions of nature, they must have a relationship with it. And they can't have a relationship with it if they're never spending time in nature. The heart of Timbernook is that children flourish when given the time and space to play. For every hour of structured programming, they have 2 hours of free play out in the woods. And this really brings together these 2 points, and it really reaches children in a unique way that we don't get from other programs. Next slide. So I guess I can just give a bit of background about our current Timbernook program. I skipped that, sorry. We first began running Timbernook in 2018 out at the Northcott campus, partnered with Lakefield College School. And then in 2020, they were rezoning the property. And so we had to find a new place to run our camps. And that's when we partnered with Kawartha Land Trust. And we are currently running our summer camps. We're running our second summer out there at their Dance Nature property. We sold out our 2021 camps in 2 weeks. So that was 9 weeks of summer. Completely sold out with a waiting list on all weeks. So we're really looking at a growth in this type of program and a need for it. Parents are wanting children, especially during these times to be outside, and we can offer that. And we're looking to offer it in more areas. We've had parents come as far as the beaches in Toronto to come to our program. And so we think that Millbrook would be an amazing way to not only bring in people from outside of the community, but to get into that community that you guys have worked so hard to build. We hear so many stories about our childcare center spending time in the woods, and we would just love to be able to do that too. Our camps run, it says here 2 weeks of camp. However, with the way things are looking right now, it would probably be 2 days of camp in July 2nd and June 30th, just for both of us. We did this with Kawartha Land Trust too, just to see what the logistics look like. And we've never run in a public open space before. There's lots of providers that do, but it would be a learning experience for us as well. Our camps run Monday to Friday from 9 to 3:30, and staff are on location from 8 to 4. We have our own, Compass has their own insurance, and parents complete participation waiver, medical release, and we have emergency contact information. It's a fully insured camp. You can go to the next slide. We run at a 1-to-6 ratio, which is very, very low for school age camps. So we would have 12 children and 2 staff, me and another trained timbernet provider. In this instance, we would probably have some loose parts left overnight in the woods. They would mostly be parts of children's forts. The fact that we're only running 2 days, it's debatable. Like, we could probably make something work. And again, the storage thing is if we were there for a longer time, we would love to work something out about storage. Next one. So this is kind of what we would need from you. A large natural area, which we've spent a lot of time exploring the trails in Millbrook, and there are definitely some spots that look like they could fit our needs. We would need a place to bring in a porta potty, and that would be on our end. A designated safe drop-off and pickup area for parents, and a small parking area for 2 cars for our staff. An emergency shelter just in case there is a storm. We've in the past just used like a small shed just to hunker down until the storm passes. And then we would probably put up a pop-up sun shelter somewhere as a central meeting point for the children. Next. So looking around, we've kind of been out there a couple times, and we know that the old school is a very popular area, and a lot of programs use that area, and we would not want to take away from any of that programming that's going on. It's wonderful, and we support it and only want it to grow. So we're looking at the fairgrounds and would love to speak to the fair chair if anyone has contact, that it looks like it would fit our needs pretty much perfectly at the moment. But also we're open to any other ideas that you all may have. Next slide. And that's it. So really we just have any questions that might have popped up that I didn't cover. I'm used to doing this kind of out in the woods and in person. It's a little easier to explain what we kind of do. So I hope I covered most of it. Really, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for my clarification, Jenna, have you had any discussions at all with the township prior to this presentation?
I have personally not. However, I think our Jill Wickens, our operations director, may have spoke with them.
Okay, Matthew, Cindy, Yvette, do you have any background on this?
Maybe they did with Alana, in all fairness, I'm not sure, Robert, but no, we haven't had any discussions at this time.
Okay, sorry, you're a bit hard to hear there, Yvette. Did you say you have not had any discussions at this time?
No, we haven't had any discussions at this time.
Okay, great. Okay, Cindy, could you go back one slide, please? Just in terms of requirements or no, ideal location, I guess. Next slide, forward. Yeah, our ideal location. So just looking at this, that location, my initial thought would be drop off, where I mean it's pretty tight there in terms of roads, and there's sort of no real parking lot because the fairgrounds is closed. Are you thinking of talking to the Agricultural Society in terms of opening up the gates for potential parking locations?
Yes, that would be kind of ideal. Our drop off all happens at the same time, so everyone arrives at 9 o'clock, and then everyone is picked up again at 3:30. So if in talking to the fairgrounds, we were able to open up the gate and have parents come in. We've used single lane driveways and managed it. So we would hopefully be able to figure something out, kind of like a turns, big circle loop kind of for them to come in.
Okay, and then presumably you'd have the porta potty on the fairgrounds as well.
Yes.
Okay, and then so maybe seeing that the trails entrance at the fairgrounds is your quote ideal location, what sort of what sort of activity would happen on the trails? Would you be using the fairgrounds at all for this sort of exploratory with the kids, or would it all be sort of done on the trails itself?
So we would probably have our central meeting point up on the trails just for eating lunch and drop off and pick up. And then down at the bottom of the hill, there off to the sides of the trails, we would have most of our exploration down in there.
Okay, and when you referred earlier to fort building, I mean, what materials would these forts be built out of, and where would they be stored?
Yeah, so we use loose parts. So the most that we would have down there would be some tarps and rope, a couple skids, maybe some loose boards, and everything's once the forts are built, like nothing's left hanging around, everything is intentional. And yeah, that, like I said, if we're just doing the 2 days, we can bring them in, they can use them, and then we can bring them out with us.
Okay. Any initial thoughts, comments from committee members or staff?
One thing I was thinking about drop off is that it might be easiest to drop off near the post office boxes, because there are a couple of parking spots there, although I don't know what arrangement. I don't know how cool that would be with Canada Post. The other question I had was whether there'll be signage identifying you as Compass Timberneck left at the trailhead when you're down at the bottom of the trail, so that people know you're there, and whether that would be left there if there was anything stored in the woods.
Yes, we do have a big banner that identifies us, and then we have small yard signs that we can leave. They just kind of stick into the ground, and it says very clearly Timberneck. We use it when we run program in Jackson Park, and it identifies us and our materials pretty well. We haven't had any issues with it. sorry,
No, go ahead.
staff wear Timber Nook shirts. So we all have shirts that say Timber Nook Peterborough on them.
Okay. I guess I would ask initially sort of what staff's initial thoughts are on this, being that we are a committee of council, and it's obviously not up to us solely to permit this. Matt?
Yeah, through you, Rob. Thanks for the delegation. Obviously, with regards to the allowance, this would require a motion of council, being for a myriad of reasons, being municipal property for the parts that are, and depending on the locations, etc. But we can also obviously connect you with the fair board who oversees that property. I'm not quite sure exactly how open, unfortunately, that they might be for this specific use. I mean, being 2 days is a lot different than 2 weeks, but we can definitely connect the two, and we have maybe Melissa or other members of staff can help sort of coordinate with regards to anything that you might need in that regard. But yeah, I think from a consideration standpoint for tonight, for the trails involvement, I guess it would be up to the committee to make a motion in support of this delegation moving forward to go before council for consideration. So that's sort of my 411 summary as to how it would work at this point. And not sure if that is what you're looking for. If there's any questions, happy to speak to it.
I can certainly vouch for Compass Timber Nook. I am an occupational therapist. I was an occupational therapist before I went into medicine, and the developmental outdoor play, the experiential play, and the immersion in the outdoors that Timber Nook provides is wonderful. The kids are outside winter and summer, no matter the weather. And as Jenna was saying, it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So it really is outdoor school, but it's school disguised as experiential play. So the kids come out of these programs with incredible confidence year on year. They build skills and cooperative skills that otherwise, you'd have to go to residential camp to acquire. So I think it's a wonderful, wonderful program. I'd like to think that we can find a way to make it possible for Milbert Valley Trails to be a part of it. The one thing, Jenna, is that the fairgrounds are, in every other year, of course, used for the fair. Mm-hmm. So just bearing that in mind in terms of your discussion with the fairgrounds people. So it's usually one of the first weekends in June. So from year to year, this particular weekend might not be available to you. I'm forgetting which weekend is it? I know it's always strawberry and spinach season. Which
second weekend?
Second weekend, okay. And then also for future reference, it takes about a week after the fair every year to get the fairgrounds completely clean. Just so you know, for future reference.
Good to know.
But it is a lovely site.
Okay, so then as per your comments, Matthew, what are the next steps? Do we sort of?
Through you, Chairman Jackson, I think CAO Hurley would like to speak.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would support Matthew in the aspect of if the committee is interested, then the committee would support it by a motion and then take it before council for consideration. If that's the way the committee would like to go. For connection for the fair board, we can certainly make arrangements for you to discuss the use of the lands and what gate needs to be open should you move forward with this. It's also something that, we do have 2 recreational full-time staff now, And that is something that our staff have been considering, doing these new programs, the outreach programs that they want to go ahead with. So Melissa is on with us right now. She is one of our recreation programmers, and that is something that we're interested in exploring in the future. Maybe there's a partnership, maybe there's further dialogue, but it is something that the council was very supportive of hiring recreation people so that we can do these outreach programs and get more involved in our community, especially our young, which is incredibly important. So I would support you having further conversations with Melissa.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Any more comments or discussion from the committee? Okay, then do we want to bring a motion forward?
I think Maureen did.
Maureen?
Sort of. Yeah, I move to endorse, what do I endorse? I move to endorse further consideration by council and
Putting them on.
introduction to the Fair Board, Agricultural Society Fair Board, for the purpose of establishing a working relationship with Compass Timbernook for a pilot camp this summer.
Is that fair of that?
Mhm. Something like that.
How about I can make it a little simpler for you, Maureen. I've been
Thank
getting
you.
a little bit better at these. Just that the MVT receives a delegation and support Timbernook and in moving forward for council consideration for running a camp in the summer of 2021.
Okay,
Because I would like them to have a conversation with Melissa.
Unfortunately, Miss Hurley, it's really hard to hear you. I can hear you, but I don't think we can hear you on the call.
no, I can't hear.
No, I can hear you just because we're in the office.
Yeah, so you can hear me down the hall, but you can't hear me in front of my.
Barely.
Yeah. Can we just add for council and staff? Matthew, on your motion there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's
And
just
so then
that they're complementary to our recreation programs as
Yep.
well. And I think the more we can
Mhm.
work together, the better it is.
Yeah. So yeah, so just Cindy, you got that with regards to the motion then that Timbernook be directed to work with staff to further coordinate the establishment of the camps in the summer of 2021.
Perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And the
So
mover
that's
is
Maureen. Whatever Maureen said.
Yeah, perfect. Definitely, we can get creative. And I just need a seconder on that through you, Chairman Jack.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fowler,
This-
second. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, thanks very much, Ms. Trumbull, for your delegation. It's much appreciated, and keep us up to date as you move forward.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so are we ready to move into the minutes now, Cindy, section 7?
Yep.
Great, okay, great. Does anybody have any comments or additions or omissions from the minutes from our March 22nd meeting? No, okay. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Mr.
I'll
Fowler,
second.
seconded by Hillary, all in favor?
Yes.
Wonderful, excellent. Okay, let's get into reports. Financial report, Ms. Hurley.
Okay. Is that better?
Much better. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I apologize. Financial report. I just wanted to let you know that we did adjust the Todd's account. So it's no longer within your budget. that you've paid for it. We transferred it out and we looked after it under economic development. So those funds are put back into your account. There's only been one that was put through, which was the 301.92. And I don't see anything else that's come through here.
Sorry about that phone call. Okay, so can you clarify for that, Ms. Hurley? So when you and I spoke a few weeks ago, you explained the situation to me, but does that mean going forward, it's going to come out of economic development?
So that's the update regarding the financial report. What I would like to add, as Cindy's identified under here regarding the Todd's update, if the committee does not choose, does not wish to continue with the Todd's program, then we have to formally notify them, because what I checked is that they were not canceled. It was not formally notified, and we really should be doing that now because they take about 3 to 6 months. So if you're not interested in continuing, what I found out is it automatically comes out, and therefore it actually was also grouped in with our Todd's signage from the municipality because it's under the municipality. And therefore it just automatically came out because no one had canceled the program. So if you're not interested in going ahead with the Todd sign, identifying Millbrook Valley Trails, that's something that maybe you should, the committee should have a discussion on.
Okay, so in our March 22nd meeting, we had some discussion, if you remember, around whether or not we had discussed that and passed a motion in the months previous or the year previous even. That has been researched and in fact, the committee did not pass any such motion. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, Robert. Yes.
Okay. All right. And you would prefer for us to discuss that tonight about their continuation in the program?
And when speaking with the province, they said 3 to 6 months. So that makes me nervous. So if we don't, if we don't, everything seems to be a little bit slower. If you're not interested, I think sooner rather than later. It doesn't have to be done today, of course, but it's something that we should put on the agenda for that discussion. If you wish to cancel the program, I would rather send a formal letter to them sooner rather than later. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And can you remind us how much the charge was?
I want to say 1,500.
And is there any indication from the province that price may go up?
In 2640.
26.4?
What's that, Cindy?
2640.
There you go. Oh, here it is.
$1,526.40 is what the cost was.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And any indication for a price increase in the years to come?
I never asked that actually, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can certainly follow up and certainly report back, so you're aware of if there is going to be an increase. But for this time, we automatically looked after it under economic development. If you would like to, you could also ask the township to look after that under economic development and continue. That is an option as well, if you want to consider that.
Right. And
So you, Chairman Jackson, can I just quickly stop us for a second? Is Deputy Mayor Graham still on our call?
I don't see him.
Okay, go about your meeting and I will give him a quick call.
No,
Okay.
he's not here, Cindy.
No, I see him in the attendee section for some reason. I don't want to promote him in case we've got the same situation that we had for the WBR. Remember where people
Yeah.
were ghosting to pretend there was somebody else? So I'll call Deputy Mayor Graham. Sorry to interrupt.
Problem. And just to clarify again, Ms. Hurley, that's an annual cost, correct?
That is correct. I did confirm that.
Okay. Then to the committee members, do you want to have this discussion tonight? Are there any hard feelings on this, or do we want to discuss it in our May meeting? What are your thoughts? Are there any thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, oh, no, go ahead, Maureen.
No, I wasn't. You go
Oh.
ahead.
I'll make a motion that we end our association with Todd's, and if I don't get a seconder, then we can either discuss it further tonight or put it on the agenda for next week or next month.
Okay. Maybe before I ask for a seconder, can I ask Ms. Hurley, is the township continuing their relationship with Todd's for their sign, which I think is the downtown Millbrook sign, correct?
Yes, we will.
You will, okay. Okay, does anybody want to second Mr. Follis's motion?
Well, that clears up that side of the argument.
I was about to jump in and second it. I mean, I think it's a lot of money. I think we initially when we signed up for the program, and sorry for how it looks like I'm in a dark cave right now, it's just basement lighting. I think we used to pay $600 a year, and that jump to $1,500 is pretty extreme. So it was I think at $600 it was a nice thing to add to help spread the word. We seem to be spreading the word just fine, and I don't know if that's a result of the signage. I don't think that it is. I think it's word of mouth at this point. So I personally think it, depending which budget it's coming out of, but even just like in general, I think that's a lot of money to pay each year. But I would second John's motion.
Just to comment on that too, a couple of years back, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we just played around with a little bit of, I think it was Facebook advertising. And I think, to quote Rob, I think it was a nice Thanksgiving weekend or something, but I remember him saying it was the busiest he'd seen it in a long, long time after we ran like $10 worth of Facebook ads. So, you know, $1,500 will buy a lot of little Facebook ads on strategic weekends or for, you know, International Trails Day or something like that. If we want to try to advertise in a slightly more modern and controlled method than just slapping signs up on the highway.
Well, and again, as chair, I do not get a vote, but I would say that, you know, I'm neither for or against, obviously, but I think we do have a very strong social media presence. I think we're you know, thanks to the efforts of the committee members, we're pretty strong on Facebook and Twitter, and thanks to the efforts of, I think, Alex, we are quite prominent on Google Maps as well. So there is that. But again, I don't get a vote. So are there any other comments before we vote on the motion at hand?
If I could speak to the motion, I was going to say, I think the whoever's doing the social media part of it's covering it well. And I think the money could be better spent elsewhere.
Okay. I guess maybe on the other side of the coin, I would say that Ms. Hurley did mention that there's the potential to potentially approach council to have the township pay for that in the future as part of, I guess, economic development or wherever they would slot it in. Any thoughts on that, or do we want to go to the vote?
I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. Maureen?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward not worth it.
Okay. Hillary?
I agree that social media is doing really well. So I agree with everyone here so far.
Okay, well then can I have a vote on the motion at hand? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Chairman Jackson, can I just confirm that motion is to no longer use Todd's and to send them a notice or a written authorization or written letter to confirm that we will no longer be using them?
Correct.
Does anyone want to place a bet on whether they actually take the sign down?
I was just going to say that, and maybe to Ms. Hurley, I'm assuming that the formal notice that the township will provide is the action for them to potentially take the sign down, correct? We don't need to do anything else? You're on mute, Ms. Hurley.
We will follow up and make sure that that is part of the request.
Okay.
I have a funny feeling they take a long time to put a sign up and they take a long time to take a sign down.
Right. Okay, well, we shall see. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Page, I'm assuming you didn't receive an update from Ms. Meredith at Orca? No?
No,
Okay.
nothing through Chairman Jackson.
Okay, then in absence of John, Hillary, what are you able to provide for the trail report?
Yeah, so I did I went up from Elgar Drive, and Meadow Trail looked really nice. This was just past this weekend, so saw lots of cyclists out and enjoying the trails. Did Cedar Trail, and it was nice. A little wet in some spots, but nothing too concerning. It did look like someone had done up a little stonework back there for some wet spots. I'm not sure if anyone knows who would have done that. I mean, they did a good job, but notice that was done up. And the only other spot I noticed that's really mucky and people are starting to walk around is on the Grand Trunk pathway, just sort of just before the what am I thinking?
Not the one that's not far from the rail bridge.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's the elevated boardwalk.
Yeah.
Narrow elevated boardwalk, and then just beyond it, there's mud.
Yeah.
As
So
you're heading toward the rail bridge.
yeah, and it desperately needs some work for usage because people are desperate to go around at this point. So, but yeah, and also noticed that there was some boards, and it looked like people have brought in some nice new boards for some of the boardwalks on, I think it was Cedar Trail. So again, I'm not sure who did that or is maybe starting to plan it, but the boardwalks back there are definitely giving way. The wood's just rotting, but mostly just that really wet spot on Grand Trunk could use some assistance. Other than that, things looked really good, and I didn't get a chance to do the trails just off of Distillery Street, so I can't speak much about those ones, but hopefully I was just kind of hoping to not see a ton of increased traffic when we had wanted to have the trails some time to dry up and stuff. But that's it.
Okay, thank you. Can I just clarify, when you say on Cedar Trail they've brought in new wood, does that mean there's wood waiting to be used?
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks you can see like our old piles that may have been there for a long time, but then there's some newer 2x4 sort of thing. I'm not sure how long they've been there. I've been down those trails a lot during the winter, and I definitely didn't recognize them in the snowfall, but for sure noticed them this time.
Oh, okay, did you bring those in, Dave?
No, I haven't seen them. No.
No, I haven't seen
I
them
was
either.
wondering if the stonework that Hillary was referring to is the flagstone, just that we did at the end of the boardwalk to fill in the muddy spot up to the little bridge, which is between those two spots. That's the only stone I've seen. But I did go through there the other day and I didn't notice anything. But Hillary was maybe looking around differently. So,
yeah, when did you go, Hillary?
I just went this past weekend.
Okay, yeah, because I was there yesterday and I didn't see wood there.
Oh,
but maybe
it's not as new as I expected, but I thought it looked fairly newish.
okay.
Like,
Well,
there wasn't moss or anything on it.
I'll check with John Frizzle, but yeah, I certainly haven't brought any wood up to that location, but it does need it. That's one of the potential fixes on my list here for a potential work day, which we can discuss here down in 9.4. I can do a quick, in John's absence, I can do a quick overview of the Meds Loop. It's quite good in terms of dryness. There are a couple of fixes that need to be completed, mainly the long S boardwalk where the support has broken, which was not event since the winter, but the weather's finally, we're able to get in there and fix that. Maureen, have you noticed anything else? Any other issues?
Yeah, I have not been on med for a month, so all the other trails, all the way up to out to Ganney Transit, are great. Somebody with a chainsaw has done really nice grooming work on some of the side trails. Just trees that had started to lean over, and it's and that was really neatly done. And I'm suspecting John Follis. I'm not sure, but thank you. And let's see, there is a slump again this year in the ramp that goes up to the fishing platform, the observation platform at the MNR, and that really does need to be repaired. So, it's part of our allotment of accessible trails. So it would be nice to see that done this spring.
Okay, well, I think, I agree, and I've got a list of things to do, but let's talk about that in spring workday. But while we're on the issue of the trails report, there have been some calls from the public and from members of the committee to reopen the trails. As you'll remember, we've closed them. They've been closed for about a month now, just before Easter, due to the spring thaw. I wanted to check with township staff at tonight's meeting about any issues around reopening the trails due to the provincial closure. If there's any issues around that, or are we free to open them? I know that Meds Park is closed for walkthrough purposes only, but I wanted staff's opinion on their thoughts about reopening.
Through you to Mr. Chairman and committee, there's no issue with reopening trails. I mean, the province right now is supporting walking and walking through, not necessarily congregating or gathering, and only with your own family, the people that you live with, of course. So I don't see any. I'm on the calls every week, sometimes multiple times in a week. I don't see anything that does not support trail walkthrough with your own family. Okay, and we already have those COVID signs up that we put up almost a year ago, unfortunately. But okay, so if everybody's in agreement, we can start removing those trail close signs tomorrow, even tonight, if that's okay. Is that good with everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The on Station Trail, there's, which I mean, it can probably still reopen, but there is one pretty significant wet spot by the old car there, which is, maybe something that shouldn't stop us from reopening at this point. I'm in favor of encouraging people to get outside and get exercise and use the trails. I think the real sort of damage to the trails, that period that we're really concerned about with the thaw, has passed. But it's maybe something that should be on our radar for workday. Haven't noticed that wet spot being as bad in the past as it is this year. But yeah, for some reason it's not ATVs or anything like that. It's just holding water differently there. So yeah, just to point that one out. It is muddy there still, but I'm still in favor of reopening it.
Okay, so let's park that one for discussion on the spring workday.
So just to confirm, the trails are going to be marked as opened?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody submitted through Google Maps today that we were in fact open. So I was trying to figure out how to remark it as closed because of user input or whatever. And in the last, hour, we also got a message on Facebook asking again if they were open. So that'll be good. I'll try to put together an announcement for both Google Maps and Facebook to get the news out.
I'll probably be able to take down the med signs as soon as we get off this call, but I'll work over the next day or two to take the other ones down. And if you're able to assist me in that, Dave, I'd appreciate it. You could just drop the signs off here. I can come pick them up at a later time.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay, I think those signs have been very effective. Certainly, where I live, I see a lot of traffic and all year round for the trails, and I was really quite pleased to see the number of people that did stay off when since those signs have been up. It's sort of gone. More people are now ignoring them than initially, but I would see people coming up to the end of Distillery Street in their cars and literally seeing the trails closed sign, because I put one right on the fence posts right at the end of the parking lot there, as well as at the trailhead, saying that the trails were closed, and they would literally turn around in their car and drive away. So that was good to see. But I think now with the warmer weather and the combination of the lockdown, we are getting more users. But the good news is that the trails are the trails are dry and for the most part ready to be used. So I think the closure was quite effective this year, so that was good to see.
Maybe one question just before we get off the topic. Was there something we wanted to do about Grand Trunk where it was so muddy and people have started making a little bypass? We're just going to live with that. And
I think that was we're going to table that for the spring work day.
Okay, but okay. Just we're not going to put other trail closed signs or discouraging, not trail closed in that location, but not going to do anything in that spot to discourage people from using it. We'll just let it happen.
I think by the time you get there, it's
that's fine.
I think we can solve that pretty quick.
Yeah. Do we have any 2x8s or anything like that in the shed that we could just lay down over the mud for the time being, just to give something, especially on Station Trail, just to give people something to walk on?
We do, but I was thinking we might be able to tackle it a bit more effectively than that. We've still got some O-pipe, and there's lots of mulch as well up at the Lion's Den that we can bring in.
I think
on work day. I meant temporarily.
Well, but we need to discuss what we're allowed to do with workday. I'm assuming,
Okay.
I don't think we're going to be allowed to have a formal one here. So,
Right.
yes, Miss Hurley shaking her head. So,
Right.
right. So, we're in a lockdown, remember? So it's going to be determinant in terms of what we're able to do on an individual, or maybe a couple of people working together. So let's discuss that when we get there.
Oh, just one addition to trail report. I just remembered the garbage bin at the M&R trout ponds is full to the brim. And I'm happy to report that because the spring trout opener was much lesser this year, was much less garbage. And despite the fact that there wasn't a porta potty, I didn't see any evidence of people using the woods to do their business. But the gate is not open, so I don't know. Is it it's township staff, right, that empties that garbage can? It's not M&R staff. So the township must have to open the gate to get in to empty the can, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So that would need doing pretty soon if you can get some of the guys out there, because as soon as it fills up, it just starts overflowing and people don't put their garbage where it belongs.
I did make a note of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me.
Okay, 9.1 draft work plan.
You, Chairman Jackson, before we skip off of the trails report, can I just touch base on potentially creating a new way that we report this? So what if I created a template that was called trail report? It had each trail, and then people could formally submit this, type it up, little quick notes. It would then make it easier for me to capture it in the minutes, and it would be proper. To be honest, you guys are on the trails. I'm just kind of interpreting what you're saying. And then it would also be more transparent when we take it forward to council, because all of these minutes do go forward on the council agenda. I have no problem creating the template and sending it out to the team if you guys think it need to be tweaked, or, you know, have different comments on, you know, what it could look like to fill that. But that would be something that I would like to do moving forward if the committee agrees.
Yeah, absolutely. We had at one time sort of a form that we did fill out, but if you, I don't know sort of what happened to it. It just sort of seemed to go by the way.
Okay. Let me see what I can find on our end, or if you can find it, Chairman Jackson, great. And then maybe before the next meeting, we can get something finalized, give people a chance to use it. Our next group is Craig. So not Craig now, Maureen and somebody else. So maybe I'll work with them to use that one for our next meeting as kind of a template, if everybody agrees.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Next is me anyways. Okay, give me 1 second. So this was just a thought. I also sit on the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee. And because we have various subcommittees and so many projects that we're working on, we've created a work plan that we use, and it gives us a chance, instead of having each of these items individualized generally under general business, we just speak right to this work plan, and then we can do the updates on it, and you know, then it constantly tells the story. So then we can kind of go back and look, like I'll use the North Trail expansion for an example, that you know the subcommittee was going to provide background information and suggested next steps. So then whatever recommendations or discussion we have at tonight's meeting, I will add it into this work plan on what the next steps are, and then we would use this as our speaking notes moving forward for a work plan to kind of, you know, keep us focused and kind of know where everything's going. It's just a suggestion. It's what we use in Mr. Hack. So I just thought I would throw it out for you guys for consideration.
Okay, great. Any comments? Matthew?
Yeah, thanks, Robin, through you. Yeah, Cindy, thanks for this. I think it's a great tool that we can utilize, and will help us sort of. We've had discussions about a bit more sort of organization in the pursuit of transparency, and you know, having sort of processes in place for us to just, you know, transparency will solve itself if we just fill in a little bit of structure to some of the operations that we're doing, so that everyone can be aware, especially for council's standpoint. I provide oral updates after our meetings, but you know, depending on the sequencing, sometimes there can be several weeks between my update and our meetings. So it helps me as well, just to provide that insight as to what's going on, and can also be a part of you know, our bigger plans moving forward as we try to, and we've talked about before about, you know, sort of laying out the horizon when we establish after, you know, a new term of council, you know, with a fresh committee, that sort of this is where we left off. This is sort of the history as to what we did over the 4 years, and this is what our sort of the previous iterations of the committee, this is what their ideas were moving forward for the next 4 years. And then that committee, when it's newly established with potentially new members, can revisit and choose a new direction, or, you know, incorporate directions from council, you know, all of the above. It just makes it that much more trackable. So I really appreciate this, Cindy, and I think it could be a very helpful addition to the structure of the committee.
Okay, great. Okay, can we move on to 9.2, Trail Master Plan update?
So for clarification, do you want me to bring this back to our meetings? Do we want to start to use this? Do we not want to use this? What are we thinking?
Oh, okay. No, I'm happy to use it. Do we, sorry, I wasn't aware. Do we need a motion to approve this, or?
Not at all, not at all. I just used the two items that I knew were hot topics, so I just use them for an example. So if it's something that you guys are comfortable with, I'll just keep adding to it after each meeting. I just wanted to make sure that it was something you guys wanted to utilize. Okay.
It
Anybody
could
have
also
any
be something,
concerns?
Kimberly. Sorry, Rob. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, you go ahead, because I was just gonna ask if there were any other comments, so.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, I was just gonna suggest that as we go into 9.2 here, there could theoretically be some overlap with regards to, this could be the ongoing sort of work plan, but there could be some overlap with what has been discussed with regards to the master plan and the projects that we have talked about. Like, this could sort of be append to the progress or the tracking for the things that have been done, and then there could be a different template for the future looking sort of thing that was very much discussed in that trails master plan. So
Okay, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll work with you, Chairman Daxton, just to do the last modification before our next meeting, just to make sure we have everything on it.
Sounds good. Mr. Graham, do you want to talk to us about the trail master plan update?
sure. Yeah, and I have to apologize. I've had limited availability due to some other requirements, so we haven't been able to have a subcommittee meeting. But thank you to anyone who took the time to submit any comments to Rob, and Rob will schedule a meeting to have those discussions, and we can maybe gloss over that work plan as well with Alex when you guys are available, and we'll figure out a bit more how we're going to sort of work with that structure and fill in the gaps with regards to some of that planning, and go from there. So nothing much to report, but just thanks, and we'll get back to you next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, and I've got those comments to be ready to.
Perfect.
We can discuss them when the time comes.
Excellent.
Okay, 9.3, tree planting. I've got two things on this. One is I got a call from Orca asking me to pay for the trees that we ordered. And I reminded them that they were to bill the township. I'm just wondering, Ms. Page, if you've received any invoice from them on this?
Not to date, but I can follow up with Meredith if you'd like me to.
No, that's fine. They'll contact you. They called and said, we need your credit card. And I said, well, I'm happy to pay for it, but this is who I am and this is what we've done in the past. And the lady was very apologetic and said, all right, I think Meredith told me about this. I'll contact the township, but I'm sure you'll hear from them.
Have you heard anything, Miss Hurley? Have you seen an invoice across your desk?
No, I have not, Cindy.
Okay.
Okay. It was approved. It was, I think it's for $240 or something, but it's actually cheaper because I think the lady on the phone told me that they got some funding. So they've reduced the prices. So I don't think we were at our $250 limit. But again, that was approved, I think, in the February meeting, maybe. Anyway, I am going to pick them up on the 30th, which is this Friday. And then we will need to plant them, obviously, which kind of leads us into 9.4, which is spring workday discussions. Usually, of course, we've always done tree planting and other work the first couple of weeks of May in a spring workday, but we obviously didn't last year. And I'm assuming we aren't obviously able to do that this year, but maybe the township could offer some sort of direction as to what the current rules and regulations are as terms of what they know now and what we may or may not be able to do.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, how many trees are you expecting to receive?
Oh, it's very, I don't remember, but like 3 dozen, like not hundreds by any means. Like it's very possible to do it with one or two people. It's
Okay.
It's not going to be a huge undertaking.
Okay. So, I mean, if you have 1 or 2 people, I guess the question is, one, you'd have to make sure that you're complying with social distancing and obviously wearing the appropriate face covering. Yep. You're definitely, unless you can find a family that's from one single house that's willing to do those plantings, that's a possibility. The other possibility is for you to identify the location and I can have our staff do the planting. We do have groups that our staff are with the particular group and they're able to, as an essential business, to maintain that group. It's quite small, obviously, given the limitations with, social distancing and everything that we have to comply with. But I'm not sure. You'd have to definitely make sure that you're separating yourselves from two different families, I guess is my worry.
Right. Okay. So that leads into the larger question. I mean, obviously tonight we've talked about, the potential fixes and repairs that we need to do after a long winter, right? So there's some boardwalk repairs that need to be done. There's some, wood chips, some possible flagstone that needs to be laid. I know that last fall we were able to have sort of a non-official work day where we were able to invite other people outside of the committee, and we were sort of able to theoretically work together as long as we social distance and had face coverings, which we did. But I'm assuming that at this point, because we're actually in a lockdown, that any repairs that need to be done would need to be undertaken by the committee only, and following those same guidelines.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would say yes. I guess you're in a difficult situation in the aspect that it's not an essential, right?
Of course, yeah.
So I would suggest if you can postpone some of those repairs that you've identified, or until we're out of this lock. And I don't even know when this will be right at this moment, but I am sensitive that it is not an essential, and keeping the distance and social distances and family mixing and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you can push off the repairs for the time being, that's probably your best option. I understand the planting of the tree. Of course, you have to plant the trees because you have them and you don't want them to die, of course. And I understand that, but again, I'm not sure if a family would like to take that on, or two individuals separately.
Sure. Well, we can
keeping it
discuss
separate.
that.
So
Yeah, we can discuss that internally.
Okay.
Matthew, did you have some comments?
Yeah, just sort of doubling down on Yvette's comments that, as much as I'd like to even do some sort of smaller iteration of a work day, I just don't think it's in anyone's best interest, or, from a risk standpoint, something that we should really endeavor to do. What I was sort of thinking in my mind, looking ahead at the calendar, was wondering if theoretically, our next meeting would be on the 24th of May, or if that's the holiday, is it not? Maybe someone knows. So if it's a holiday, then the 25th, or theoretically it could be on the 20th. Cindy, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say your next meeting is May 31st.
So theoretically, my suggestion was going to be if we move that meeting to the 25th, which is a Tuesday and disruptive, and so just bear with me, that theoretically we could potentially have the opportunity to discuss a work day the following weekend, rather than or even if it is to stay on the 31st, it's just an additional week that theoretically the weekend afterwards could be something that we work towards. Unfortunately, just planning for it now, I think it's not in anyone's best interest. And by then, I think that there should be some adjustments, and hopefully some of the tremendous spread that's ongoing will have sort of curbed, and maybe some restrictions will be loosened. But, I know there's certain things we'd like to do sooner than later, but that I think is a prudent way to go forward. And then if there are, like, the tree planting, obviously is a different issue. And if there are one-off things that individuals can do or that need being done, then so be it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wondered, I can't take credit for whoever did the tree trimming up until now, but if there are trees, Dave had mentioned at the last meeting that there was a tree that needed to be taken care of. I haven't been out yet, but I certainly can go out and get that done by myself, unless it turns out to be a huge tree, in which case I'll leave it. I don't know whether there's any more trees that need to be fixed, but the one, and I can talk to Dave about that afterwards. We talked about it last week and figured there wasn't that much need to rush it. So anyway, if I can still do trees if there's some that need to be tidied by myself.
Okay, so and that's appreciated. I guess I would ask the township for clarification that if we are able and willing to go out and do things ourselves, For instance, like I think I can go out with the kids probably and fix that broken beam on the S boardwalk and just get it fixed, because it is kind of a fairly serious issue. Is that allowed and okay, or would the township rather as full stop just not do anything until the lockdown is over and or our next meeting on the 25th?
Yvette, do you want to answer? I mean, I can, but I don't want to just be corrected by the boss.
This is like a test.
No, I mean, we're happy. Listen.
No, I'm talking about Matthew, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, I'll go then, fine.
You go ahead,
I would
Matthew.
suggest that as long as you're doing anything within your own unit of, of your, I hazard to call it a bubble, let's just say family or, unit,
People you
however you
reside
want to say it, your lockdown unit, then there shouldn't be any issue with doing that. And there's nothing that the township should have a stance against. Obviously, the instructions being as Ms. Hurley has already laid them out about safety protocols and the expectations of, social distancing, mask wearing, etc. And the only other thing I would just make a comment to, and maybe this is helping me pass the test, is that, just so we know that if John is going to go out into the woods with his chainsaw, that he has a point of contact and a check-in, sort of check out, as should anyone. There should always be sort of at least some sort of buddy protocol that someone knows that you're out there to check in and check out when things are going on in that regard. That's not, social distancing is one thing, but also just being safe is another. And I think that would make me feel better, John. No, I've seen the chainsaw in action. I have full confidence, but I think it's just best practice.
And I would agree, Mr. Chairman, and support Matthew on his comments. And
Okay,
again,
so-
I mean, if someone's by himself, and John, I know you're skilled on a chainsaw, but again, we would want to make sure that you're safe, of course.
So I'm guessing then maybe just no tree trimming till the lockdown's over and two of us can go out and make a social distance thing. Because if I'm out there by myself and somebody checks in 6 hours later, it probably won't matter.
Okay, but I
You mean
think,
not the thought that counts?
Pardon?
Not the thought that counts, John. Is that what you're saying?
No, not in this case.
You're tough, John. I don't know.
okay, so I think we all sort of know what is out there that needs to be done. Those of us that have walked the trails recently. Now, some of them are more than a one-person job, or maybe even a one-family job. So if you feel like you want to be able to tackle that one or more of those things, then why don't you coordinate with myself? Because I may need to go to the yard and get materials, etc., for you anyway. And when I get the trees, the seedlings on Friday, I'll do a recount in terms of what we have, and then I'll send an email out. And if there's anybody that wants to help, certainly, like maybe we can, there 3 or 4 of us can each take a dozen or something and just go out over the next few days, that weekend or beyond. I mean, they don't have to be planted immediately, obviously, but if we want to handle it that way, then I think let's just proceed like that for the next few weeks until hopefully things get better and we get out of this lockdown, and we can maybe be a bit more communal as the province gets healthier, etc. Is that fair?
Mhm.
Okay,
That's good.
excellent. Okay, 9.5 federal funding active transportation. Melissa, do you want to take us through what that is?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is just sort of a little bit more information that Deputy Mayor Graham had brought on last month's meeting about the active transportation fund of $400 million. I did some research, and this was kind of the information that I found, that this fund was to help expand active transportation infrastructure across Canada. Things like active transportation includes walking paths, bike lanes, multi-use trails, and widening of sidewalks. The funds are to be used over a span of 5 years to improve or create more transportation or recreational type options like building of trails, cycling paths, pedestrian walkways, and other forms of active mobility for rural, urban, and Indigenous communities. The initiative is part of the government's strengthened climate plan, a healthy environment and healthy economy. They hope to raise awareness for they hope to raise awareness for the benefits of active transportation, so promoting greater use and recognizing the benefits that are enhanced through enhanced safety, accessibility, good health and well-being, which would be experienced by the communities because of reduced traffic congestion, job creation, and a reduction of carbon emissions and air pollution. Since 2015, the government has invested $130 million in active transportation projects across Canada. And once things improve from COVID, the plan is to expand these investments to support more initiatives. I think this is definitely something that this group could entertain and benefit from. We should keep our eye out for funding opportunities as they open up for applications. Currently, right now, I could not find anything about any open opportunities for us to look into. But as I continue to look and things come up, then I can bring it forward to a meeting. Just some fun facts, some current projects that are a part of this right now are the Grouse Mountain Regional Park Trails in Vancouver, BC. And they have upgraded a series of their trails, done improvements to the entrance of the main trailhead, created new trail connections, and construction of new viewpoints and rest areas. There's an all ages and all abilities bikeway in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and they created an accessible, safe, and convenient network for cycling routes that offer more than one way to get around. And currently work is being done to an 80-kilometer system of bikeways and pedestrian pathways. And finally, Kelly Brook Shared Use Path in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Currently, they're in public consultation to decide upgrades for the Kelly Brook Trail System to create a 4.8 kilometer route in St. John's to serve both recreational path and active transportation option for people to connect to popular destinations along the way. So that's just a little bit of the background and what it's about. Just like I said, right now, there's nothing open for application process.
Okay, excellent. So you will keep us abreast of opportunities and funding?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Any comments from the committee?
No. Thanks for looking into that, Melissa. I really appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Hurley, M&R agreement update.
Through you to Mr. Chairman, to the committee. So I did look at Alana's file just to see where she left off with regards to the M&R agreement. And it doesn't appear that there's been any correspondence on that item for a couple months. So I will pick up where she left off and reach out and see if I can find out, where do we go from here, so I could report at the next meeting. But I don't see any work being done on it since then.
Okay, well, let us know if you need any assistance with that.
Thank you.
And the French drain update. At our last meeting, you said that you had talked to Mr. Hancock and that he was going to do potentially something with it. Any further news?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee. So I believe the roads department came out and modified the pipe that was sort of being exposed. Mr. Jackson, you might be able to state that that's been corrected or not. But the actual work itself has not been scheduled due to other commitments from the roads department, but I've been assured by Mr. Hancock that it'll be done by next week. I will keep you posted.
And do you know, Ms. Hurley, does that include, are they going to reseed it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we'll do, I believe it's being exposed and it needs to be corrected. I think the staff did go out and take a look at it. So I think they know what needs to be done. It probably will not be the roads department that actually seeds after the fact. It'll be the parks department, but we'll certainly work in conjunction with each other.
Okay, and you may not know, but I'm assuming some of the work that's going to be done is regrading, because it's quite a hump now.
That is what I understand
Right.
from Mr. Hancock, that they need to open it up and get it back down there. It's protruding quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Tower Hill North Development. Proposed new connection trail. Who's speaking to this?
Matthew, is it you or myself? What would you like to do?
Well, I'll start and you finish. That seems to be working so far.
Absolutely.
So with regards to, as I think everyone's probably aware, in the plan of settlement, or sorry, a plan of subdivision that was recently presented in the public meeting, and previously in a meeting before that held by the developer, there are plans that are designed to incorporate a trail system into the new development. There are a few hitches along the way that it is experiencing with regards to the boundaries of the water course that's going to be established and the buffer zone that is required. So there's ongoing conversations about how we can, not necessarily circumvent's not the word, but work together to create a solution that will provide a worthwhile trail that will be a nice experience and a good addition to the community. And it was my thought, and I think we spoke about this earlier, but it was my thought that if we have had a subcommittee, with regards to discussions about Northern Trail development, and this is a developer that is seemingly hearing and has heard from staff the interest and the appreciation of trails in our community, and is attempting to, hear that call and incorporate it into this natural area within the subdivision. So I thought it might be worthwhile for Miller Valley Trails to send a letter of support or appreciation or thanks for that consideration, and support the hope that it does come to fruition. And potentially, if there's any sort of requests or anything to be considered for the developer, obviously they have a rough layout, but they're not trail developers by any stretch. So if there were preferences or things for consideration that the Millbrook Valley Trails would like to submit, if you'd like, we can incorporate in a future meeting. We could show the map and have a brief discussion about the trail. This is nothing super urgent, but I mean, it's been ongoing for a while, and we've got a bit more time. So it being the Trails Committee, I think it's only fair that if there was an endorsement to be made, that we should speak to it and then support that sort of inclusion into subdivisions as we move forward here with development. So that's sort of my stance, but I'll turn it over to you then.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee, I would agree with the Deputy Mayor. I think it's we have been asking at a staff level only that the importance of connecting trails and connecting trails throughout our community. So I think if the committee is interested in putting something forward formally, it would be a benefit. There is still no approval on this development at this time. It doesn't mean that there will be. It's just that if there's an interest on having the trail system connected with the previous development or Millbrook itself, then I think it's warranted consideration, of the importance of trail connections in our area.
Okay, absolutely. I'm more than happy to write that letter on behalf of the committee. So maybe I'll touch base with Matt and just sort of talk about specifics and maybe what points we should cover, and I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. And maybe what we can do, Rob, is you can draft it up, and then maybe at the next meeting, Cindy, we could incorporate the plan or the images that we have of the plan. I know there's probably only one. And again, it's not set in stone. It might change between now and then, but just to give some, it might spur on some comments that we could theoretically incorporate to the template of the letter or the meat of the letter, if there's anything that comes to mind from committee members, rather than sort of delaying the process. I think for the letter in support is really generic, but if there are specific things that you just wanted to forward for consideration, you can do it in that same letter, and we can do that as a committee. And then I don't think, unless Yvette seems to think that there might be any issues with waiting, and if we do that at the next meeting on the 31st, I don't think anything's going to happen too earth-shattering from that timeline, so there shouldn't be any issues with that. But I'll defer to her on that timeline if that works.
I think the timeline's fine, Matthew, no issue.
So if you're good with that, then we can include that and have a brief discussion about it at the next meeting, and Rob and I can work offline about the letter, and we can add anything to it and then get it off. That works for you, Rob?
Excellent. Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Perfect.
And does staff have a conceptual design of the plan that you want me to add to the next agenda?
Yeah,
Through
it's
you-
whatever was in the public meeting presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
It really isn't, it isn't a conceptual design really at all.
No.
It's just a line, but we can show it.
I think the map will help when we see it. There's no doubt about it. But just so I'm clear in my head, we're talking then north of Fallis Line rather than south of Fallis Line. Okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I think that's a go, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So is this trail, is it separate to the sidewalks that they're proposing, or is it?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I understand then.
So there is a realignment, just for the summation and briefly. So there is a realignment of a water course, let's say. I would call it a new establishment of a buffer area that includes a water course. And the plan includes a trail, a very small, but actually fairly lengthy trail system along the water course, throughout, sort of along the backside of the plan of subdivision. So that's what I'm referring to with regards to the trail.
Thank you.
And I think it's important, if I may, through you, Mr. Chairman, is to state the importance of the trails system within our community, because we are receiving a bit of pushback on that a little bit, on where it would be located and how the connections would work. So I think anytime we can support a trail system within our area, it would be good to take note on that.
Mhm. May I ask that is each developer, as they come into the community and as they open up new proposals for development, are they each given an updated trails master plan as part of their orientation to the community?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Maureen. So we do a pre-consultation meeting, and we sort of touch on the highlighted interests in our community, and trail development is one. So that's right from the very beginning. We've asked about linkages, trail connections, sidewalks, green space, trees, etc. So those are all part of the primary discussions that we do have with the developers.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Any other comments or questions around the Tower Hill North development? Okay, excellent. 9.9. So as some of you may know, unfortunately, one of our committee members, Craig, has resigned from the committee. And in discussion with township staff, I just wanted to get sort of an update on what the procedure is, knowing that we have a municipal election year in a little over a year. If the space needs to be filled, etc., what the process is. So I'm not sure if staff has had a chance to discuss that.
can speak to this through you, Chairman Jackson, to you and the committee. First, we should formally accept the resignation from Craig and through a motion, and we'll send him a letter of thanks. As it stands now, which I have added your terms of reference, so if you're okay, I'll quickly skip to the next item. The current complement does say that you have 2 council appointed members. Deputy Mayor Graham, you wear 2 hats, and 8 members at large. So in theory, yes, you would need to replace him because you don't have enough people on your committee to fulfill your complement of 11 people.
Okay, and how does that replacement process work?
So I would run an ad in the paper, and we would probably give it about 3 or 4 weeks. And depending on how many applications we get, we would take it into closed session with council, and council would appoint a member. If there's only 1 member, we would just take an open report to council appointing that member.
Okay, can I ask, it was my understanding that there were more, what's the phrase I'm looking for? More people applied than we accepted last time. So does it needs to be an open process again? We can't go to one of the people that was not accepted previously?
Oh. Well, I think we probably could. We did that from our revitalization committee. We pulled another member that had, yeah, we probably can do that. I didn't know that you had additional people, so I can pull who your additional people were. Are you nodding, Miss Hurley? Do you think that's okay?
I absolutely, yes,
Yeah,
we've done that
it's faster
before,
too.
and if there was additional, by all means, we can certainly reach out to them.
Okay, and don't quote me on the fact that there were additional, but I believe, I seem to remember having that discussion.
So let me pull through Miss Arthur's information and see what I can find historically, and I can touch base with yourself, Chairman Jackson, and see. And if there aren't, does the committee support me running an ad, or what? I saw your hand jump up there, Deputy Mayor Graham, but I'm not sure exactly what you would want to do if we don't have enough applicants at that point.
Rob, through you, my hand was only to say that I have it on good authority that there is a deadline of tomorrow for the next issue of the newspaper to go to print. So should you do that review and find that we don't have any more applicants, then that would be the sort of deadline that you'd be under to get the ad in the paper. So maybe knowing that, it might warrant if you need a motion from the committee, then maybe then have that review, and should there not be any additional candidates, that we could then move forward to run the ad as soon as possible to fill the vacancy.
I am a beaver and I do get things done quickly. Having said that, do you have any idea when that was? Because I don't even know where to begin to look. Do you know when the last time we had a vacancy?
We did have a vacancy. I could give you the date if I looked, but I would say it was approximately a year and 6 months ago.
Okay, perfect. So let me see what I can find, because that's yes, I will do my very best. Let me tell you that.
I can go through the, anyways, I'll go back and check, but we should have record. It might be faster to find record of the ad as to when we ran for the vacancies last time, but.
Okay. That's what I was going to do, a quick search in the computer when we're done. Okay, perfect.
There's no one else to remember, because Craig was one of the replacement candidates.
Yeah, but I think I think there were other.
I believe there was 2. I thought there was 2 others.
Yeah, there are 2 others or 1 other at least. So
Well,
maybe it's
John,
quicker to look for.
Yeah,
Well,
John Frizzle.
Sorry,
keep jumping in there. John Frizzle returned to the committee around that same time, so I think we had. Oh yeah, there were a couple, because we had someone sort of start the committee and then resign early, and then yeah.
Anyways, if we give Cindy the direction for both options with the motion, she might be able to meet the deadline. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay. All right, so that takes us to the.
I think she might need a motion for that, Rob. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can I have a motion then?
You can have mine. I just can't move it.
Okay, would somebody like to move Matthew's motion?
I'll move Matthew's motion.
Okay, John, second it.
I'll second.
Maureen, all in favor?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, so sorry, Ms. Page, was that the point to the terms of reference?
Unless Ms. Hurley or Deputy Mayor Graham, was there anything else that we wanted to speak to regarding the terms of reference?
No, I think it was a good refresher, and it was to reference the replacement issues, because I know we talked about it sort of offline. So I appreciate knowing it. There's a few things we could probably update with regards to, the 2 council appointments, because I don't know when the last time that occurred. John might be a better source for that answer, but maybe Yvette can work on that timeline to correct those sorts of things.
It's through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Deputy Mayor. I agree. I think it was, we did have an offline conversation just about the importance of the terms of reference, just with regards to roles and responsibilities. So that's just, I think it's always good to have it in front of us and as something that we can reference if we need to.
Yeah, and I think as well, to that point, and through you, Rob, that there was some questions or some, maybe I'm the only one getting them, but there has been some comments about the purview or the jurisdiction of the committee and the direction of the committee. But this is the committee's terms of reference, not the trail. The Trails Master Plan is its own thing that relates here. But it's just to have an updated copy of it. Obviously, the updated is in quotations, and we'll work that in. But just so everyone's aware, I think it's a good thing to have, in front of us. So I appreciate it. So thanks for pulling that together, Cindy.
Okay. Brings us to items of for our next meeting. Do we need to, we spoke earlier about the date of that meeting, scheduled for the 31st. Do we need to potentially make a motion to change it to the 25th? So do we want to do that, or do we want to leave it as the 31st?
I think with the holiday, I didn't realize that until I'd already said the idea. So maybe that's an impediment, and another week isn't going to break or make the improvement. So we might as well, I don't see any issues with leaving it as is. And then the only thing I'll say in addition is that we did, so obviously we can have the letter. Cindy's probably already got this done. So there's the letter that we'll have in the discussion with regards to the North Trail development. We'll try to have a meeting with the Trails Master Plan subcommittee, but between now and then, I'm just not sure I'm going to be available. So that's my fault, and I'll bear the heat for that. But I will review those comments from Rob in the meantime if we're not able to schedule a time that works for all of us. So that's all I've got for the next meeting.
Okay. I wanted to bring something up, but sorry, I should have maybe spoke when we approved the agenda. I got an email this week from the Agricultural Society president, and they apparently, if you remember, at the trails entrance off of Main Street, there were some very large no trespassing and private property signs that they had. Those had been removed, and so they talked about getting them replaced, but they wanted a more permanent solution to the plastic ones that they were using. So I suggested the sign place in Pontypool, and the aluminum panels that we use have been very effective. So those have been reprinted, and I discussed at that point with them about maybe a bit softer language, because it was kind of off-putting to trail users to see a private property and no trespassing signs. But Ms. Post, Deborah Post, the president of the Agricultural Society, told me that that was a requirement of their insurance, but they have ordered some signage, and I believe they might be up already, that it is private property, but that access to the trail is allowed, but at user's own risk. So that's a bit softer wording, which was appreciated. They did mention, this is for staff, they did mention that their insurance is requiring a copy of an insurance certificate that names Millbrook Agricultural Society as an additional insured party. And I said that I would mention it. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but Ms. Page, is that sort of something that we might be able to provide if I put Ms. Post in touch with you?
I will say insurance I am learning. So if you want to send me the information, I will contact our insurance representative and work with internal staff and get back to you.
Well, maybe I'll
Probably
put you in
best tell
touch with Ms. Post because I
Perfect,
don't know exactly what they need, but I think it's just a statement saying that they're allowed to use the property to access the trails or something. Anyway,
Something like that. The
I'll
fairground
do-
property.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Definitely pass her information along to me for sure. And we'll talk about it internally and go from there.
Okay. And then quickly, while we were on the subject of wording of signage, Dave, did you want to talk about the Ganney Transit, the Ganaraska sign very quickly?
Yeah, I'd love to. Cindy, am I able to share my screen for a moment? Is that all right? Share. And let's try this one. Everyone see that sign okay?
Mhm.
So there are two signs that were put up on Ganney Transit back when we first opened the trail. This one is where the trail intersects Fire Route 310, so roughly the halfway point. And so so the purpose of this is that I personally don't like this sign. It's hard to read and people don't read it. And it's awfully wordy and all caps. And but the point of the sign is to tell people that when they enter the Ganaraska that they'll need to buy a trail pass. And so I was just proposing to Rob to, if we could, signs are cheap enough these days that we could just reword this, change the layout a bit and make it a bit more clear that it's not telling people that this is where the Ganaraska begins. Because for people that are sort of too lazy to navigate that difficult to read sign, they just assume that this is the beginning of the Ganaraska. There's another sign when you enter the Ganaraska, if I can make my computer work, that's kind of similar. And Jerry just put these up because it was something we told the Ganaraska we would do. And I just think that, the trail's getting a lot of traffic now. We get a lot of newcomers and we could just probably do a little better if we wanted to. So what I was proposing was that for the first one, we changed the wording to say, are you still seeing can you see my word now? Yeah, so the first one, I just wanted to say this. So the Millbrook Valley Trails Network is free and open to the public. Users wishing to extend their trip into the Ganaraska Forest are required to purchase a Ganaraska Trail Pass. So that's our heads up sign, and which we may or may not need. Probably the important one would be at when our trail ends, which would just say users wishing to extend their trip into the Ganaraska Forest from here are required to purchase a Ganaraska Trail Pass. However, on that note, you can see in the background here, if I can zoom, that's a bit much, isn't it? Over here, they have added their own signage at this point off in the background there, which they probably didn't have when we first put up our signs. So, when you reach the end of our trail, it's very clear that you're now entering the Ganaraska. They've got all their signs. So my real concern for all of this is that people don't know that they can use our full trail. And so they think they're entering the Ganaraska or they think they have to use a day pass. And I would really love for people to just be able to enjoy our trail if they want to without any worry of trespassing or breaking rules. So on the word, like on the verbiage, I don't know if that's good enough. That was just sort of my first draft at it. I guess maybe it's something I could work on with someone else, Robert or
Chairman Jackson, do we want to add this to the next agenda?
Oh, right.
Sorry, that's why I'm
Sure.
here to kind of keep this on the. I don't mean to be a fun crusher, but if we can respectfully just add this to the next agenda, then we can definitely add speaking points and we can definitely have more dialogue about it.
And Dave, I'd be happy to speak with you about some of the language in between now and then too, to come up with an efficient message for it. No problem.
Just to add to that through you, Mr. Chairman, it is very difficult to read. It doesn't meet accessibility issues at all. So through the Deputy Mayor, what our accessibility requirements are. I would definitely think that you would want to encompass them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So would we call it new signage for Gany Trail? Does that work for the agenda item? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Gany Transit.
The County
Yeah,
Transit.
that's one of the issues.
Transit,
It's not
okay.
actually the trail name there, so.
You're more than welcome to send me some samples if you'd like to include in the agenda, if that helps any.
Okay, thanks, Cindy.
Okay, well, I think if that's it, then thank you, everybody, for attending. And again, we'll follow up with any sort of work-related issues that we may want to tackle individually or as a family. Be sure to get in contact with me. I'd be happy to coordinate that. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I can make that.
Dave, seconded by
Larry?
Hillary. All in favor?
Yes.
Right. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Take care, everybody.
Stay safe.
Thank you.